The autumn rain drummed against the tall windows of Gatcombe Park as Princess and sat in her private study, reading the morning newspapers with growing concern. The headlines were brutal, each one more damaging than the last. Her nephew William and his wife Catherine were facing the most serious crisis of their royal careers, and the media circus showed no signs of slowing down, and had always prided herself on staying out of family drama. But this situation was different. The attacks on William and Catherine weren't just personal. They threatened the very foundation of the monarchy she had served faithfully for over 50 years. As she folded the newspaper with a sharp snap, her mind was already working, formulating a plan that would surprise everyone, including her own family. The crisis had begun 3 weeks earlier when a former royal staff member published a tell-all book filled with explosive allegations about the Prince and Princess of Wales. The book painted Catherine as demanding and difficult, claiming she had reduced staff members to tears with her supposedly unreasonable requests. William was portrayed as hot-tempered and out of touch, allegedly making insensitive comments about struggling families during private conversations. The timing couldn't have been worse. William and Catherine were preparing for a major tour of Commonwealth nations, designed to strengthen ties and showcase the monarchy's relevance to younger generations. Instead, they found themselves trapped in Kensington Palace, their every move scrutinized and criticized by media hungry for scandal. Catherine had barely slept in days. The mother of 3 young children was struggling to maintain her composure as photographers camped outside their children's school, hoping to capture a reaction shot. The stress was taking its toll on the entire family. George, their eldest, had started asking uncomfortable questions about why people were saying mean things about his parents on television. William was furious, but felt powerless. Every statement his communications team released seemed to make the situation worse. The palace's traditional strategy of saying nothing and waiting for the storm to pass wasn't working in the age of social media, where rumors spread faster than wildfire and demanded immediate responses. Meanwhile, other members of the royal family maintained their distance. Some were dealing with their own controversies, while others believed that getting involved would only add fuel to the fire. The king, still adjusting to his new role and facing his own challenges, had offered private support, but avoided making any public statements that might be seen as taking sides. It was during this dark period that Princess made a decision that would change everything. Known for her no-nonsense approach and fierce loyalty to the institution of the monarchy, she had watched the attacks on William and Catherine with growing anger. These were not just any members of the royal family. They represented the future of the crown, and their children would one day carry on the legacy she had spent her life protecting. Anne's relationship with William had always been special. As a child, he had been fascinated by his aunt's military connections and her reputation as one of the hardest-working royals. She had taught him to ride, shared stories of her equestrian competitions, and impressed upon him the importance of duty and service when he married Catherine, and had been one of the first to welcome her into the family, recognizing in the young woman the same dedication to royal duty that had defined her own life. The Princess Royal's anger wasn't just about family loyalty, though. She genuinely believed that the attacks on William and Catherine were unfair and based on distorted versions of the truth. Having worked closely with royal staff for decades, she knew how challenging it could be to balance the demands of royal life with the need to maintain high standards. She had seen firsthand how the media could twist innocent moments into damaging headlines. More importantly, and understood the broader implications of this crisis. The monarchy was at a crucial crossroads, trying to modernize while maintaining its traditions and relevance. William and Catherine represented the best hope for achieving this delicate balance. They connected with younger generations in ways that previous royal couples had struggled to achieve, while still respecting the protocols and responsibilities of their positions. The decision to intervene wasn't made lightly, and had built her reputation on staying out of controversies and focusing on her royal duties without drama or fanfare. She was known for her direct communication style and her ability to cut through nonsense, but she rarely used these skills in defense of other family members. This time will be different. Her first move was subtle but significant. During a routine visit to a military charity she patronized, and made sure to wear a brooch that Catherine had given her the previous Christmas. It was a small gesture, but royal watchers immediately noticed. The brooch, featuring the regimental emblem of one of William's military units, sent a clear message about where loyalties lay. The real surprise came during the charity event itself, when a reporter asked about the ongoing controversy surrounding the Prince and Princess of Wales and didn't deflect or offer the usual diplomatic non-answer. Instead, she looked directly into the camera and spoke with the kind of authority that only decades of royal experience could provide. Her words were measured but powerful. She spoke about the dedication she had witnessed from both William and Catherine, their commitment to their royal duties, and their genuine care for the people they served. More significantly, she challenged the narrative that had been building in the media, suggesting that those who worked closely with the couple had a very different experience than what was being portrayed in sensational headlines. The impact was immediate. Anne's intervention gave other supporters permission to speak up, and soon a different story began to emerge. Former staff members who had remained silent started sharing positive experiences. Charity leaders spoke about the genuine compassion they had witnessed from both William and Catherine during private moments away from the cameras. But Anne wasn't finished. She understood that one intervention, no matter how well received, wouldn't be enough to turn the tide completely. The crisis required a sustained response, and she was prepared to provide it. Her next moves would be even more surprising, as she stepped further out of her comfort zone to defend the future of the monarchy she loved. The Princess Royal spent the evening after her charity appearance making phone calls to trusted contacts throughout the establishment. These weren't political figures or media personalities, but the kind of people whose opinions carried weight in the circles that mattered most. Military leaders who had worked with William during his service years. Charity executives who had collaborated with Catherine on her early childhood initiatives. Commonwealth officials who had seen the couple's diplomatic skills firsthand. Each conversation followed a similar pattern and would ask about their genuine experiences with William and Catherine, listen carefully to their responses, and then suggest that perhaps their voices needed to be heard more widely. She never explicitly asked anyone to make public statements, but her meaning was clear. The truth needed to be told, and it needed to come from credible sources. The response was overwhelming. Within days, a flood of testimonials began appearing in newspapers and on social media. These weren't the usual palace-approved statements, but genuine accounts from people who had worked with the couple in various capacities. The narrative began to shift as the public heard from those who had actually witnessed William and Catherine's behavior behind closed doors. One particularly powerful statement came from a former military commander who had served with William during his helicopter pilot training. He described a young man who was genuinely committed to serving his country, who never asked for special treatment, and who showed real concern for his fellow servicemen. The commander's account directly contradicted claims about William's alleged arrogance and sense of entitlement. Similarly, Catherine found unexpected defenders among charity workers who had collaborated with her on various projects. They spoke about her thorough preparation for every engagement, her genuine interest in the causes she supported, and her ability to connect with people from all walks of life. These testimonials painted a picture of a woman who was the opposite of the demanding prima donna described in the controversial book, and watched these developments with satisfaction, but she knew her work was far from over. The media cycle moved quickly, and positive testimonials could be forgotten just as rapidly as negative allegations. She needed to do something that would have a lasting impact, something that would remind everyone why William and Catherine were so important to the future of the monarchy. Her opportunity came when she learned about a planned protest outside Kensington Palace. A small, but vocal group of Republican activists had announced their intention to stage a demonstration calling for the abolition of the monarchy, using the current controversy as justification for their cause. The protest was scheduled for the weekend, and while palace security was confident they could manage the situation and saw it as a chance to make a bold statement, rather than avoiding the area or maintaining the usual royal distance from such events, Princess Anne decided to do something unprecedented. She would visit William and Catherine at Kensington Palace on the day of the protest, making her support visible to both the media and the public. It was a risky move that could backfire spectacularly if not handled correctly, but Anne had never shied away from calculated risks when she believed they were necessary. The decision sent shockwaves through the royal establishment. Palace officials tried to dissuade her, arguing that her presence might escalate the situation or provide protesters with additional publicity. Anne listened to their concerns, but remained unmoved. She had made up her mind, and those who knew her well understood that changing it would be nearly impossible. As news of her planned visit leaked to the media, the anticipation began to build. Royal correspondents speculated about what message Anne was trying to send, while constitutional experts debated the precedent she was setting. Some praised her loyalty and courage, while others worried about the potential consequences of such a public show of support during a family crisis. William and Catherine themselves were surprised by Anne's decision, but deeply moved by her gesture. Catherine, in particular, felt overwhelmed by the support from someone she had always respected and admired. The Princess of Wales had often felt isolated during the worst moments of the crisis, wondering if other family members believed the negative stories being told about her. Anne's unwavering support provided exactly the kind of reassurance she needed. The weekend arrived with unprecedented media attention focused on Kensington Palace. Protesters gathered outside the gates, their signs calling for Republican reforms and an end to what they characterized as royal privilege. Counter-protesters also appeared, supporters of the monarchy who wanted to show their backing for William and Catherine during their difficult time. As Princess Anne's car approached the palace gates, cameras captured every moment of her arrival. She sat straight-backed in the passenger seat, her expression calm but determined. The sight of the Princess Royal deliberately choosing to visit during such a controversial moment sent a powerful message that resonated far beyond the immediate media coverage. Inside the palace, the meeting between William and Catherine was emotional and significant. Away from the public eye, they discussed not just the current crisis, but the broader challenges facing the monarchy in the modern era, and shared her decades of experience dealing with media controversies and public criticism, offering practical advice alongside her emotional support. More importantly, she helped William and Catherine understand that this crisis, while painful, could ultimately make them stronger and more effective in their roles. Every member of the royal family faced serious challenges at some point in their careers, she explained. What mattered was how they responded and what they learned from the experience. The conversation lasted for several hours, covering everything from media strategy to the importance of maintaining perspective during difficult times. Anne's presence provided William and Catherine with something they had been missing throughout the crisis, the feeling that they weren't facing their challenges alone. They had the backing of someone whose royal credentials were unquestioned and whose judgment was respected throughout the establishment. When Princess Anne finally emerged from Kensington Palace, the crowd of supporters who had gathered outside began to cheer. Her gesture had clearly resonated with those who believed in the monarchy and wanted to show their support for William and Catherine. The protesters, meanwhile, found their message somewhat undermined by the obvious display of family unity and institutional support. The immediate impact of Anne's visit was significant, but its longer-term implications would prove even more important. Her intervention had established a new template for how the royal family could respond to crises affecting its members. Rather than maintaining distant silence, they could choose to show visible support when circumstances warranted it. The precedent would prove valuable in future controversies. For William and Catherine, the visit marked a turning point in how they approached the crisis. With Anne's support clearly established, they felt more confident about pushing back against unfair criticism and presenting their own version of events. The defensive posture they had maintained for weeks began to give way to a more assertive approach that would serve them well in the days to come. As the sun set over London that weekend, the landscape of the royal crisis had shifted dramatically. What had begun as an isolated controversy affecting one couple had become a broader test of institutional loyalty and family bonds. Princess Anne's intervention had passed that test with flying colors, setting the stage for the next phase of what would become a defining moment in modern royal history. The days following Princess Anne's dramatic show of support at Kensington Palace brought an unexpected shift in public opinion. Social media, which had been dominated by criticism and speculation about William and Catherine, began to see a surge of messages supporting the royal couple. The hashtag Team Wills and Kate started trending, with thousands of people sharing their own positive experiences of meeting the Prince and Princess of Wales during various royal engagements. Catherine found herself reading through some of these messages late one evening, tears streaming down her face as she saw the outpouring of genuine affection from people across the Commonwealth. A teacher from Wales described how Catherine had spent extra time with special needs children during a school visit, going far beyond what was required by her schedule. A veteran's widow shared how William had personally called her after learning about her husband's death, offering condolences that went well beyond the standard royal protocol. These weren't orchestrated testimonials from palace communications teams, but spontaneous expressions of gratitude from ordinary people whose lives had been touched by the couple's work. The contrast with the negative headlines of recent weeks was stark, and it reminded Catherine why she had fallen in love with royal duty in the first place: the opportunity to make a real difference in people's lives. William was experiencing his own moment of clarity during a private conversation with his father, King Charles. The king had invited his eldest son to Highgrove House for what he described as a long overdue heart-to-heart conversation. Away from the pressures of official duties and media scrutiny, father and son walked through the organic gardens that Charles had lovingly cultivated over decades. The king shared his own experiences of facing public criticism and media storms during his younger years. He spoke honestly about the mistakes he had made and the lessons he had learned about balancing personal feelings with royal responsibilities. More importantly, he expressed his pride in how William and Catherine had handled themselves during the current crisis, praising their dignity and restraint in the face of unfair attacks. Charles also revealed something that surprised his son. He had been the one who had encouraged Princess and to take such a public stance in support of William and Catherine. The king explained that while he couldn't be seen as interfering in family controversies, he had recognized the need for someone with credibility and independence to speak up for the truth. Her intervention had been more coordinated than it appeared, representing a careful strategy to defend the future of the monarchy. This revelation helped William understand that he and Catherine hadn't been as isolated as they had felt during the worst moments of the crisis. The royal family's apparent silence hadn't been indifference, but rather a deliberate approach designed to maximize the impact when support was finally expressed. Princess Anne's intervention had been all the more powerful because it came from someone known for her reluctance to get involved in family drama. Meanwhile, the controversial book that had started the entire crisis was facing serious credibility challenges. Investigative journalists, inspired partly by the strong defense of William and Catherine from respected figures like Princess, and began to examine the author's claims more closely. What they discovered was troubling. Several of the most damaging allegations appear to be based on secondhand gossip rather than direct observation, and some quotes have been taken completely out of context. The author, a former palace employee who had worked in a relatively junior position for less than 2 years, had apparently embellished his limited access to create a more sensational narrative. Several colleagues who had worked alongside him during his time at the palace came forward to contradict his version of events, describing his accounts as either completely false or dramatically exaggerated. One particularly damaging revelation emerged when it was discovered that the author had been dismissed from his palace position for inappropriate behavior, including attempts to secretly record private conversations for potential future use. This information had been kept confidential at the time to protect his privacy, but his decision to publish a tell-all book had changed the calculation about what information could be shared publicly. Princess Anne watched these developments with grim satisfaction. She had suspected from the beginning that the allegations against William and Catherine were based on limited and biased sources, and the emerging evidence confirmed her instincts. Her decision to speak up had helped create an environment where the truth could emerge, encouraging others to challenge the narrative that had dominated headlines for weeks. The Princess Royal wasn't content to simply watch from the sidelines, however. She had committed herself to supporting William and Catherine through this crisis, and she intended to follow through on that commitment. Her next move surprised even those who thought they knew her well. She announced that she would be joining William and Catherine on their upcoming Commonwealth tour, the same trip that had seemed in jeopardy just weeks earlier. The announcement sent shockwaves through royal circles and beyond. Princess Anne had rarely participated in joint tours with other family members, preferring to focus on her own independent schedule of engagements. Her decision to join this particular tour was seen as an extraordinary gesture of support and confidence in William and Catherine's ability to represent the crown effectively. For Catherine, Anne's decision to join the tour provided an enormous boost in confidence. The Princess of Wales had been dreading the trip, worried that every interaction would be overshadowed by questions about the recent controversies. Having Princess Anne alongside them would provide both practical support and symbolic validation of their approach to royal duties. The tour itself was scheduled to visit 3 Commonwealth nations over the course of 10 days. Each country presented different challenges and opportunities, from formal state occasions to grassroots community engagement. The presence of Princess Anne would add gravitas to the formal events, while her legendary work ethic would be an asset during the more demanding community visits. Palace communications teams worked overtime to prepare for the increased media attention that would inevitably accompany the tour. Rather than trying to avoid questions about the recent controversies, they developed a strategy that acknowledged the challenges while focusing on the positive work being accomplished. Princess Anne's participation provided a powerful visual narrative about institutional confidence in William and Catherine's abilities. The first stop on the tour was Jamaica, where the delegation would attend several official ceremonies marking important anniversaries in the country's relationship with the crown. The arrival at Kingston Airport drew huge crowds, with local supporters far outnumbering the small group of Republican protesters who had attempted to organize a demonstration. Princess Anne's presence immediately changed the dynamic of the visit. Her reputation as a no-nonsense royal who genuinely cared about Commonwealth relationships preceded her, and local officials were clearly honored by her participation in the tour. The sight of 3 generations of royals working together sent a powerful message about the continuity and stability of the monarchy. During their first major engagement, a visit to a youth development center in Spanish Town, the synergy between the 3 royals was immediately apparent. William connected naturally with young athletes training for upcoming competitions, sharing stories from his own sporting experiences and offering encouragement for their ambitions. Catherine focused on the educational programs, spending time with teenagers who were combining athletic training with academic studies. Princess Anne, meanwhile, gravitated toward the facility's administrators and coaches, asking detailed questions about funding challenges and operational difficulties. Her practical approach to problem-solving was immediately apparent, and she quickly identified several areas where her various charitable patronages might be able to provide assistance. The visit demonstrated the different strengths that each royal brought to their shared mission of supporting Commonwealth communities. The media coverage of the Jamaica leg of the tour was overwhelmingly positive, focusing on the substantive work being accomplished rather than the controversies of recent weeks. International correspondents noted the obvious chemistry between the 3 royals and their genuine engagement with the local community. The narrative that had dominated headlines for months was finally beginning to change. Catherine found herself relaxing for the first time in weeks as she saw how naturally she worked alongside Princess. And the older woman's direct communication style and obvious competence provided a steadying influence that allowed Catherine to focus on the aspects of royal duty she truly enjoyed. During quieter moments between official engagements, and shared practical advice about managing media attention and maintaining perspective during difficult periods. The second country on the tour was Belize, where the focus shifted to environmental conservation and sustainable development. This was territory where William and Catherine felt particularly confident, given their long-standing commitment to environmental causes. Princess Anne's presence added credibility to their conservation message, given her own decades-long involvement with various environmental organizations. A visit to a marine conservation project in the Belize Barrier Reef provided some of the tour's most compelling imagery. William and Catherine donned diving gear to explore coral restoration efforts, while Princess Anne met with local fishing communities to discuss sustainable practices. The collaboration between traditional conservation approaches and cutting-edge marine science perfectly illustrated the kind of practical environmentalism that all three royals supported. During an evening reception in Belize City, Princess Anne made her most direct public comments about the recent crisis affecting William and Catherine. In remarks that were carried live by Commonwealth broadcasters, she spoke eloquently about the challenges facing young royals in the modern era and the unfair scrutiny they often face from media outlets more interested in sensation than substance. Her words were carefully chosen, but unmistakably supportive, praising William and Catherine's dedication to their roles and their genuine commitment to making a difference in people's lives. The speech was seen as a masterclass in royal diplomacy, acknowledging the controversies without dwelling on them, while refocusing attention on the positive work being accomplished. The final destination was the Bahamas, where the tour would conclude with a series of engagements celebrating Bahamian culture and the country's contributions to Commonwealth collaboration. The relaxed island atmosphere provided an ideal setting for some of the tour's most memorable moments, including an impromptu cricket match where William and Catherine joined local children in a game that quickly descended into laughter and friendly chaos. Princess Anne watched from the sidelines with obvious pleasure, occasionally offering commentary that delighted local spectators. Her presence throughout the tour had provided exactly the kind of institutional validation that William and Catherine needed, demonstrating that their approach to royal duty had the backing of someone whose commitment to the crown was unquestioned. The cricket match became a perfect metaphor for the entire tour, a blend of formality and spontaneity that showcased the royal family's ability to connect with people across different cultures and contexts. The images of William and Catherine laughing with Bahamian children while Princess Anne cheered from the boundary provided a stark contrast to the negative headlines that had dominated coverage just weeks earlier. As the tour drew to a close, it was clear that something fundamental had shifted. The combination of Princess Anne's unwavering support and the positive reception from Commonwealth audiences had restored confidence in William and Catherine's ability to fulfill their royal roles effectively. More importantly, it had demonstrated the strength of the institutional bonds that held the monarchy together during challenging times. The return flight to London was notably different from the tense departure just 10 days earlier. Where there had been anxiety and uncertainty, there was now confidence and renewed purpose. Princess Anne's decision to join the tour had achieved exactly what she had hoped. It had provided William and Catherine with the support they needed while demonstrating to the world that they had the full backing of the royal establishment. Catherine spent much of the flight writing personal thank you notes to people they had met during the tour, a practice that Princess Anne had encouraged as a way of maintaining meaningful connections beyond the formal protocols of royal visits. William worked on speeches for upcoming engagements, his confidence in public speaking clearly restored after the positive reception they had received throughout the tour. Princess Anne, meanwhile, was already planning her next steps in what had become an ongoing campaign to support her nephew and his wife. The tour had been a resounding success, but She understood that maintaining positive momentum would require continued effort and strategic thinking. The crisis that had threatened to undermine William and Catherine's effectiveness had been weathered, but the lessons learned would need to be applied to future challenges. As their plane crossed the Atlantic toward home, all three royals understood that they had participated in something significant. The tour had been more than a diplomatic mission or a series of ceremonial occasions. It had been a demonstration of the monarchy's resilience and adaptability in the face of modern challenges. Princess Anne's support had been crucial to that success, providing the institutional credibility that allowed William and Catherine to focus on the work they did best. The welcome they received back in London confirmed that public opinion had indeed shifted during their absence. Airport crowds cheered as they disembarked, and social media was filled with positive commentary about the tour's successes. The crisis that had seemed so overwhelming just weeks earlier was now largely forgotten, replaced by renewed confidence in the future of the monarchy under William and Catherine's eventual leadership. Hashtag a powerful show of support. Princess and backs William and Catherine during royal crisis. The success of the Commonwealth tour had restored public confidence in William and Catherine. But Princess Anne knew that lasting change required more than positive headlines. The crisis had exposed weaknesses in how the royal family responded to modern media challenges, and she was determined to use her influence to address these systemic issues before they could cause future problems. Her first priority was reforming the palace communication strategy. The traditional approach of maintaining dignified silence in the face of criticism had served the monarchy well for generations, but the digital age demanded more immediate and direct responses to false narratives, and arranged a series of private meetings with senior communications advisors, sharing her observations from decades of dealing with media controversies. The Princess Royal's approach was characteristically direct. She argued that the palace needed to become more proactive in telling positive stories about royal work, rather than simply reacting to crises after they had already gained momentum. Her own experience during the recent tour had demonstrated how powerful authentic testimonials could be when they came from credible sources who had witnessed royal work firsthand, and also pushed for better coordination between different royal households. The current system, where each principal royal had their own separate communications team, had led to mixed messaging during the crisis. When William and Catherine faced serious allegations, other family members had remained silent, partly because there was no established protocol for coordinating supportive responses across different royal offices. Working closely with the king's private secretary, Princess Anne helped develop new guidelines for how the royal family should respond to crises affecting any of its members. The guidelines emphasized the importance of institutional unity while respecting individual family members' autonomy in deciding how actively to support their relatives during difficult periods. The changes weren't just procedural. They reflected a fundamental shift in how the monarchy approached its relationship with the media and the public. Rather than maintaining the distant formality that had characterized royal communications for generations, there was now recognition that personal authenticity and emotional connection were essential for maintaining public support in the modern era. Catherine found herself at the center of these changes as she worked with communications advisors to develop a more personal approach to her public role. Inspired by Princess Anne's direct communication style, she began incorporating more spontaneous interactions into her official engagements. The carefully scripted nature of many royal events gave way to more genuine conversations with the people she met during her work. The transformation was immediately apparent during Catherine's next major solo engagement, a visit to a children's hospital in Manchester. Rather than following the traditional format of formal introductions and brief conversations, she spent extended time with individual families, listening to their stories and offering the kind of personal support that couldn't be captured in official photographs. One particularly moving encounter involved a young mother whose child was undergoing treatment for a rare condition. Catherine sat with the woman for nearly 20 minutes, holding her hand as she shared her fears and hopes for her daughter's recovery. The conversation wasn't planned or scripted, but It represented exactly the kind of authentic human connection that Princess Anne had encouraged Catherine to pursue. The hospital visit received extensive media coverage, but the tone was completely different from the scrutiny Catherine had faced during the height of the crisis. Reporters focused on the genuine emotion she had shown and the positive impact her presence had on patients and families. The contrast with earlier coverage was striking, demonstrating how quickly public perception could shift when a narrative changed. William was experiencing his own evolution in his approach to royal duties. Emboldened by Princess Anne's support and the positive reception of the Commonwealth tour, he began speaking more openly about issues he cared about deeply. His next major speech, delivered at a climate change conference in Edinburgh, included personal reflections on his concerns for his children's future that would have been considered inappropriately emotional by previous royal standards. The speech resonated powerfully with audiences both in the room and watching online. William's willingness to express genuine emotion about environmental challenges helped humanize both him and the broader royal family in ways that formal protocols had previously prevented. The positive response reinforced Princess Anne's argument that authenticity was becoming increasingly important for maintaining royal relevance. Behind the scenes, Princess Anne was also working to strengthen relationships between William and Catherine and other members of the extended royal family. The crisis had revealed how isolated the couple could become when facing serious challenges, and she was determined to ensure they had stronger support networks for future difficulties. She organized several private family gatherings at Gatcombe Park, bringing together different generations of royals for informal discussions about their shared responsibilities and challenges. These weren't official meetings or formal dinners, but relaxed occasions where family members could speak openly about their experiences and learn from each other's perspectives. During one particularly memorable evening, the conversation turned to the pressures of raising royal children in the modern era. William and Catherine shared their concerns about protecting their children's privacy while still allowing them to understand their future responsibilities. Princess Anne offered insights from her own experience raising Peter and Zara outside the direct line of succession, while still ensuring they understood their connection to the royal family. The king participated in these discussions when his schedule allowed, appreciating the opportunity to connect with family members away from the formal protocols that governed most royal interactions. These informal gatherings helped create the kind of mutual support system that Princess Anne believed was essential for navigating future challenges. The conversations also revealed areas where the royal family could work more effectively together. Rather than each household operating independently, there were opportunities for collaboration that could amplify their individual impact while reducing the burden on any single family member. Princess Anne emerged as a natural coordinator for these collaborative efforts, using her diplomatic skills to bridge differences between various royal approaches. One of the most significant outcomes of these family discussions was a decision to formalize mentoring relationships between senior and junior royals. Princess Anne agreed to take a more active role in advising William and Catherine, while other experienced family members were paired with newer additions to the royal family. The goal was to ensure that lessons learned from previous crises will be passed down to help prevent future problems. The mentoring relationship between Princess Anne and Catherine proved particularly valuable. Anne's decades of experience dealing with media scrutiny and public expectations provided Catherine with practical tools for managing the pressures of royal life. More importantly, Anne's example of maintaining personal dignity while fulfilling royal duties offered a model for how Catherine could navigate her own evolving role. Their collaboration extended beyond private conversations to include joint engagements where Catherine could observe Princess Anne's approach to various royal responsibilities. During a visit to a military base where Anne was presenting service medals, Catherine watched how the princess royal balanced formal protocol with genuine personal interaction with service members and their families. The military setting was particularly instructive for Catherine, as she observed how Princess Anne's long-standing relationships with various regiments had been built through consistent engagement over many years. The lesson wasn't just about royal duty, but about the importance of building authentic connections that would endure through changing circumstances and evolving challenges. As autumn arrived, the positive momentum from the Commonwealth Tour continued to build. William and Catherine's approval ratings had not only recovered from the crisis, but were reaching new highs as the public responded to their more authentic and accessible approach to royal duties. The changes Princess Anne had advocated were clearly working, but she remained focused on ensuring the improvements would be sustainable over the long term. Her next initiative involved expanding the royal family's engagement with younger audiences, recognizing that the monarchy's future depended on maintaining relevance with generations who had grown up in the digital age. Working with William and Catherine, she helped develop new approaches to royal communications that utilize social media and digital platforms more effectively while maintaining appropriate royal dignity. The strategy included more behind-the-scenes content that showed the human side of royal work without compromising the institution's fundamental authority. Catherine began sharing more personal insights in her charitable work through carefully crafted social media posts, while William offered glimpses into his environmental advocacy that went beyond formal speeches and official announcements. Princess Anne's own social media presence remained minimal, reflecting her preference for direct personal interaction over digital communication. However, she supported the younger royals' efforts to connect with online audiences and provided guidance on maintaining authenticity while avoiding the pitfalls that could arise from increased digital visibility. The approach proved successful as engagement with royal social media accounts increased significantly, particularly among younger demographics who had previously shown limited interest in royal activities. The content struck the right balance between accessibility and dignity, helping to modernize the monarchy's image without undermining its traditional authority. As Christmas approached, the royal family prepared for what would be their first major holiday gathering since the crisis had been resolved. The traditional celebrations at Sandringham would provide an opportunity to reflect on the challenges they had overcome and the lessons they had learned about supporting each other during difficult times. Princess Anne used the holiday gathering to reinforce the importance of maintaining the collaborative approach that had developed during the crisis. She organized informal discussions where family members could share their experiences from the past year and discuss their goals for the coming months. The conversations helped ensure that the improvements in royal coordination and communication would continue beyond the immediate aftermath of the crisis. The Christmas period also provided an opportunity for William and Catherine to express their gratitude to Princess and for her support during their most challenging period. In a private conversation on Christmas Eve, they thanked her not just for her public intervention, but for the ongoing guidance and mentorship she had provided throughout their recovery process. Catherine was particularly emotional as she described how Princess Anne's support had helped her maintain confidence in her abilities during moments when the criticism had seemed overwhelming. The conversation deepened the bond between the two women and reinforced Catherine's commitment to following Anne's example of putting royal duty above personal comfort. For William, Princess Anne's support had provided validation that his approach to royal responsibilities was correct and sustainable. Her backing during the crisis had given him confidence to pursue the kind of authentic, emotionally engaged royal service that he believed was necessary for maintaining public support in the modern era. The relationship with his aunt had evolved from childhood affection to professional respect and collaborative partnership. As the year drew to a close, Princess Anne reflected on the success of her intervention in support of William and Catherine. What had begun as a defensive response to unfair criticism had evolved into a comprehensive reform of how the royal family approached its public responsibilities. The changes would benefit not just William and Catherine, but the entire institution as it continued to adapt to changing social expectations and media environments. The crisis that had once threatened to undermine William and Catherine's effectiveness had instead become a catalyst for positive transformation. Princess Anne's decision to break with royal tradition and actively support her nephew and his wife had created a new model for how the monarchy could weather modern challenges while maintaining its essential character and authority. Looking ahead to the new year, Princess Anne was already planning further initiatives to strengthen the royal family's resilience and effectiveness. The success of her intervention had demonstrated the power of institutional unity and authentic communication, lessons that would serve the monarchy well as it faced an uncertain but promising future under William and Catherine's eventual leadership. Hashtag a powerful show of support. Princess Anne backs William and Catherine during royal crisis. The new year brought fresh challenges that would test the strength of the royal family's renewed unity. A major political crisis erupted in one of the Commonwealth realms, raising questions about the monarchy's role in modern constitutional arrangements. The situation required careful diplomatic handling, and it quickly became apparent that the lessons learned during the previous year's media crisis would be crucial for navigating this more complex challenge. Princess Anne found herself playing an unexpected role as an informal advisor on Commonwealth relations. Her decades of experience working with various Commonwealth organizations, combined with her reputation for diplomatic straight-talking, made her an invaluable resource as the palace developed its response to the constitutional crisis. The collaborative approach she had fostered within the royal family proved essential for coordinating a unified institutional response. The crisis began when the government of a Caribbean Commonwealth realm announced plans for a referendum on becoming a republic, citing changing public attitudes toward the monarchy's role in their national identity. While such discussions had occurred before in various Commonwealth countries, this particular situation was complicated by allegations that the decision had been influenced by foreign interference and domestic political manipulation. William and Catherine were scheduled to visit the country as part of a previously planned diplomatic tour, but the referendum announcement had transformed what should have been a routine goodwill visit into a highly charged political event. The palace communications team faced the delicate challenge of maintaining royal neutrality while still demonstrating the crown's value to Commonwealth relationships. Princess Anne's intervention proved crucial in developing the royal family's approach to the situation. Drawing on her experience from the previous year's crisis, she argued that transparency and authentic engagement would be more effective than the traditional royal approach of maintaining distant neutrality. Her recommendation was that William and Catherine should proceed with their visit, but use it as an opportunity to demonstrate the practical benefits of Commonwealth membership rather than defending the monarchy in abstract terms. The decision to proceed with the tour was controversial, with some commentators arguing that it would be seen as an attempt to interfere in domestic political processes. However, Princess Anne's analysis proved correct. The couple's willingness to engage with the situation directly, rather than avoiding it, was seen as a sign of respect for the country's democratic processes and their confidence in the strength of Commonwealth relationships. During the visit, William and Catherine followed Princess Anne's advice to focus on substantive achievements rather than symbolic gestures. They highlighted collaborative projects that had benefited both the host country and other Commonwealth nations, demonstrating the practical advantages of maintaining institutional relationships that transcended purely political considerations. Their approach emphasized partnership and mutual benefit rather than traditional hierarchical arrangements. The strategy proved remarkably effective. Public opinion polls during their visit showed increasing support for maintaining Commonwealth membership, even among those who favored Republican constitutional arrangements. The couple's focus on practical collaboration rather than constitutional theory resonated with voters who were more interested in tangible benefits than abstract political principles. Catherine's contribution to the visit was particularly significant. Her engagement with local women's organizations and youth development programs provided compelling examples of how Commonwealth connections facilitated knowledge sharing and resource development. Her authentic interest in local challenges and her willingness to learn from local solutions demonstrated the kind of mutual respect that Princess Anne had identified as essential for modern Commonwealth relationships. William's discussions with political leaders from across the political spectrum showed how the royal family's constitutional neutrality could actually facilitate dialogue between opposing factions. His ability to meet with both government and opposition leaders without being seen as taking sides in domestic political disputes illustrated the continued value of constitutional monarchy in complex political environments. The visit's success was a vindication of Princess Anne's strategic approach, but she recognized that maintaining positive momentum would require ongoing effort. She began developing a comprehensive review of Commonwealth engagement strategies, working with foreign ministry officials and Commonwealth organizations to identify opportunities for strengthening relationships before crises developed. Her analysis revealed that many Commonwealth challenges arose from misunderstandings about the monarchy's role and function in modern constitutional arrangements. There is clearly a need for better education and communication about how constitutional monarchy actually worked in practice, as opposed to outdated perceptions based on historical precedents that no longer applied. Princess Anne proposed a series of educational initiatives designed to clarify the monarchy's contemporary role while acknowledging legitimate concerns about democratic accountability and national sovereignty. The programs would emphasize the Crown's function as a constitutional safeguard rather than a source of political power, while demonstrating how royal patronage could enhance rather than compete with democratic institutions. The success of these initiatives depended heavily on the credibility and effectiveness of the royal family members who would implement them. Princess Anne's support for William and Catherine during their previous crisis had prepared them perfectly for this more complex challenge, as they now had the confidence and skills necessary to engage with sensitive political issues while maintaining appropriate constitutional boundaries. Back in the United Kingdom, the royal family's handling of the Commonwealth crisis was being closely watched by political observers and constitutional experts. The collaborative approach that Princess Anne had fostered was proving its value in real-world diplomatic situations, demonstrating that the monarchy's evolution under her guidance was enhancing rather than undermining its effectiveness. The king expressed his satisfaction with how the situation had been managed, particularly praising the seamless coordination between different royal households and the foreign ministry. The contrast with previous constitutional crises, where poor communication and conflicting messages had sometimes complicated diplomatic efforts, was striking and encouraging. Princess Anne's role in this success was widely recognized within establishment circles, though her preference for working behind the scenes meant that public credit often went to others. She was content with this arrangement, understanding that her influence was most effective when it wasn't the focus of media attention or political speculation. The Commonwealth crisis also provided an opportunity to test other reforms that Princess Anne had advocated following the previous year's media challenges. The royal family's improved communication strategy proved crucial for maintaining public understanding of their actions and motivations during a complex international situation. Rather than relying solely on formal statements from palace communications offices, the royal family used multiple channels to explain their approach to the crisis and their commitment to respecting democratic processes while maintaining Commonwealth relationships. The transparency that Princess Anne had encouraged helped prevent the kind of speculation and misinformation that had complicated previous royal responses to political challenges. Social media played a particularly important role in this communication strategy, allowing William and Catherine to share real-time updates from their tour and provide context for their activities. The authentic, personal tone that they had developed under Princess Anne's guidance proved especially valuable for reaching younger audiences who might otherwise have been skeptical of royal involvement in political situations. The success of their digital communication approach was measured not just in engagement statistics, but in the quality of public discourse about the constitutional issues at stake. Rather than focusing on personality conflicts or procedural details, much of the online discussion centered on substantive questions about democratic accountability and institutional effectiveness. As spring arrived, the referendum in the Commonwealth realm was held under international observation, with results showing a narrow but clear majority in favor of maintaining Commonwealth membership while pursuing constitutional reforms that would enhance democratic accountability. The outcome was seen as a vindication of the royal family's approach to the crisis and a demonstration of the monarchy's ability to adapt to changing circumstances while maintaining its essential functions. The success had broader implications beyond the immediate constitutional crisis. Other Commonwealth nations facing similar questions about their institutional arrangements took note of how constructive engagement and mutual respect could address legitimate concerns without requiring dramatic constitutional changes. The model developed during the crisis became a template for managing similar situations in other contexts. Princess Anne's satisfaction with these outcomes was tempered by her recognition that the work of modernizing the monarchy was far from complete. Each success created new challenges and expectations, requiring continued adaptation and refinement of approaches that had proven effective in specific circumstances. Her next priority was ensuring that the lessons learned during both the media crisis and the constitutional challenge were formally incorporated into royal training and development programs. Future generations of royals would need to be prepared for increasingly complex and politically sensitive situations, and their education would need to reflect the realities of modern constitutional monarchy. Working with educational advisors and constitutional experts, Princess Anne helped develop new curricula for royal training that emphasized practical skills alongside traditional ceremonial responsibilities. The programs included extensive simulation exercises based on real-world crises, allowing royal family members to practice managing complex situations before they arose in actual circumstances. The training programs also emphasized the importance of collaboration and institutional unity, reflecting Princess Anne's conviction that the monarchy's strength lay in its ability to present a coordinated response to challenges while respecting individual family members' unique contributions and perspectives. Catherine became one of the first participants in these enhanced training programs, using her recent experiences to help refine the curriculum and provide practical insights for other family members. Her transformation from crisis victim to a confident and effective royal communicator provided inspiration and practical guidance for others facing similar challenges. William's evolution during this period was equally significant. His increasing confidence in engaging with complex political and constitutional issues reflected not just personal growth, but the effectiveness of the support system that Princess Anne had helped create within the royal family. The collaborative approach she had fostered had transformed his relationship with royal duty from a burden to be born to an opportunity to make meaningful contributions to important challenges. As summer approached, the royal family prepared for what would be a particularly busy period of engagements, including several international visits and major ceremonial occasions. The systems and approaches that Princess Anne had developed during the previous year's crises would face their most comprehensive test as multiple royal households coordinated complex schedules while maintaining the high standards of public engagement that had become their hallmark. The summer program included joint engagements between different generations of royals, reflecting Princess Anne's belief that collaborative approaches were more effective than isolated individual efforts. These partnerships allowed younger royals to benefit from experienced guidance while bringing fresh perspectives to traditional royal responsibilities. One particularly significant joint engagement involved Princess Anne and Catherine working together on a major international development project in Africa. The partnership combined Anne's extensive experience with African development organizations and Catherine's focus on early childhood development, creating a powerful collaborative approach that attracted significant international attention and support. The success of this partnership demonstrated the potential for strategic collaboration within the royal family to achieve outcomes that individual efforts might not have accomplished. It also provided a model for future joint initiatives that could maximize the impact of royal patronage while distributing the workload more effectively among family members. As the anniversary of Princess Anne's initial intervention in support of William and Catherine approached, It was clear that her actions had catalyzed transformations that extended far beyond the immediate crisis that had prompted her involvement. The monarchy had evolved into a more collaborative, transparent, and effective institution that was better equipped to navigate the challenges of the modern era, while maintaining its essential character and constitutional functions. The relationship between Princess and William and Catherine had deepened into a genuine partnership based on mutual respect and shared commitment to royal service. The crisis that had once threatened to undermine their effectiveness had instead become the foundation for a more resilient and adaptive approach to royal responsibilities that would serve them well in facing future challenges. Looking back on the year that had transformed the royal family's approach to crisis management and public engagement, Princess and could take satisfaction in knowing that her decision to break with traditional royal reserve had ultimately strengthened the institution she had devoted her life to serving. The monarchy that emerged from these challenges was more authentic, more collaborative, and more effective than the one that had entered the crisis, proving that even ancient institutions could adapt and evolve while maintaining their core values and purposes.